Hello, you are watching Eye on Africa. I'm James Creedon. These are our headlines this evening. It's been a week of violence in Ethiopia's war-torn Tigray region. The latest tragedy is the murder of 3 employees of medical charity MSF. We'll hear more from our correspondent in Ethiopia. A car bomb in northern Mali has wounded 15 UN peacekeepers. All of them are reported to be German nationals. More details on that coming up. And in South Africa, several thousand supporters of a leftist party protested in Pretoria on Friday against the slow rate of coronavirus vaccination. Authorities have promised to ramp up the rollout in the continent's worst hit country. Thank you for watching. Now we start in the northern Tigray region of Ethiopia. Now, earlier this week, a military airstrike killed scores of people, and many of them civilians, and the spike in violence has continued with the brutal murder of 3 humanitarian workers, 1 Spaniard and 2 Ethiopians, all employees of the French medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières. Now, with more details on that tragedy, here's France 24's Maria Gert Nicolescu in Addis-Ababa.
The 3 employees of the organization Doctors Without Borders were near the town of Abiy Adi, located west of Tigray's capital, Mekelle, when they were murdered. The Spanish branch of the NGO published a statement on Friday in which it said that the bodies had been discovered near their cars. It's unclear yet who is behind this attack, which comes as the Tigray region is facing a surge in violence, especially against civilian populations. In the same area, the town of Togoga was hit by an airstrike on Tuesday, killing dozens of people and wounding more than 100. The Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Friday expressed its condolences after this attack. It's been extremely difficult and dangerous for NGOs to operate in the Tigray region. Several humanitarian workers have been killed since this conflict began last November. It opposes the Ethiopian army backed by Eritrean soldiers and the TPLF, the Tigray People's Liberation Front. The NGO Doctors Without Borders is one of the few international NGOs to go to remote areas in the Tigray region where civilian populations are suffering from a grave humanitarian crisis.
To Mali next, where a car bomb in the lawless north of the country has wounded 15 UN peacekeepers. A German MP speaking to AFP news agency has said all the wounded are of German nationality. Some 13,000 UN peacekeepers of several nationalities are deployed in the UN's MINUSMA mission across the north and centre of the country. Now, with more on that incident, here's France 24's Wasim Nasser.
Actually, that the MINUSMA peacekeeping forces were escorting a new battalion of the Malian army in order to redeploy in this region. And what we know today also that they most probably had very bad information about the situation on the ground, because it's really it's an area where Al-Qaeda is very, very active. We know that there was a improvised explosive device yesterday next to the convoy. There was no one wounded, no one died. So they made a TOB, what you call a TOB, an temporary operational base, and then the base was attacked this morning between 6 and 7 a.m., as I was told there. And 15 wounded is a high toll. It's the first time that the Germans are attacked this way. They already been in contact, but it's the first time that they are being attacked this way with a car bomb, with a kamikaze, with this high number of casualties. And I got to know that, of course, the wounded were transported to Gao, where is the big military base in Gao, and some, as Der Spiegel said, the most harmed are being transported to Germany through Niger. On the 21st, the Barkhane force was attacked also by a car bomb with a kamikaze in the town of Gossi, and this time the French had only 6 wounded. And a few days before, last Saturday, the special forces of Takuba, the Czech unit, was also attacked by an improvised explosive device 700 meters away from the barracks, the military barracks in Menaka. And this comes a few hours, at least the attack in Gossi against the French, a few hours after the first speech by the new emir of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, where he said target the French, target those who help them, either they are European or locals. And we should imagine and see this in the context, the very particular context where President Macron declared that Barkhane is going to end, and it's a kind of disengagement. So now Jnim and Al-Qaeda with it is putting very high pressure on those forces, trying to hit the weakest, if I may say so, because the objective at the end is to push the French public opinion away from accepting French operations in the Sahel, but also European public opinion. You know that we are a few months away from elections in Germany, and this will be on the table, especially if this toll of wounded soldiers is going to be discussed during the discussions before the elections. So Al-Qaeda wants to push European allies to disengage, and also public opinions not to back more and more European or French engagement in the Sahel.
Wasim Nasser speaking earlier. Now, thousands of South Africans demonstrated on Friday in Pretoria calling for the COVID-19 vaccine to be rolled out faster. South Africa, along with many other countries in the continent, is facing a third wave of the pandemic. Laurent Berstecker has more.
Calling on South African authorities to pick up the pace. Thousands of red-clad opposition supporters gathered outside Pretoria's health regulatory agency to ask the government to speed up its vaccination campaign.
We want more vaccine available, and because the president and his government have eaten our money, our people are dying in their numbers.
Much like the rest of the continent, South Africa's vaccination rollout is lagging behind. 4 months after the start of the campaign, less than 1% of the population has been fully inoculated. This as the country grapples with a deadly third wave that's threatening to once again overwhelm its health system. Yet health authorities said they were on track to meet the target set by President Cyril Ramaphosa of reaching 300,000 doses a day by the month of August.
Now we are able to do, and we have done 100,000, just over 100,000 a day for the last 2 days. Our target for next week is to get up to 150,000 a day, and by mid-July, 200,000 a day.
South African authorities have been criticized for being too cautious in approving vaccines, especially amid a global shortage in doses. So far, only the Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson jabs have been authorized. The opposition is now calling on regulators to speed up the process and to consider approving the Russian and Chinese vaccines for emergency use.
Time now for some other news stories from across the continent. Amid rising cases of COVID-19, Uganda is to be added to the UK's travel red list from the 30th of June. This means travellers will not be able to enter the UK unless they are returning nationals or residents. They will be required to first test negative for the virus and isolate for 10 days on entry. Cameroon has signed a deal with 2 China-linked companies to construct a railway from Mbalam, near the border with Congo-Brazzaville, to the southern port city of Karibi. This is in a bid to exploit iron deposits in the cross-border zone. That development has ruffled the feathers of Australian company Sundance. They have filed for international arbitration and billions of dollars in damages, saying Cameroon and Congo-Brazzaville have violated contracts by developing that project with Chinese investors. Rwandan President Paul Kagame and his Congolese counterpart Felix Tshisekedi have been surveying the damage caused by the eruption of Nyiragongo volcano on the Congolese side of the border last month. The 2 men met in Rubava, one of the towns affected, where many Congolese residents fled from across the border in Goma. Rubava was then affected by a series of earthquakes. The 2 heads of state are to pursue discussions on how to respond to the humanitarian crisis when they meet again in Goma tomorrow, Saturday. Now, a month after that eruption of the Nyiragongo volcano, access to water remains very difficult in Goma. Lava has done serious damage to the city's water supply network. Clément Bonnereau and Juliette Dubois travelled to Goma for France 24. Let's take a look.
Much of this water reservoir in northern Goma has been covered with lava from last month's eruption. 500,000 people depend on it. Excavation work has begun to try and repair it.
Comme vous voyez derrière moi, cette larve a détruit le réservoir. Et les tuyaux d'alimentation qui desservent ces réservoirs aussi ne peuvent plus faire leur travail. Ils ont fondu sous la larve et aussi les tuyaux de distribution ne parviennent plus à aller vers les consommateurs.
Before the eruption, a dozen lorries a day would come here in the city centre to fill their tanks and then distribute water around the district. But now, because much of the network is down, some 100 trucks come here every day. Residents flock to the rare taps that still function.
Volkani tombokaka ndio tukekimbia kwa tulikimbiliaka tukerudia na matio za maji zishapasuka. Ndio sasa tukefika hapa wakatuambia kama wazungu walituletea mai ya msaada. Ndio nasho tukaanza shotea hapa Bakroa Rouge.
Juu ya volkani tulikuya kasho walituletea mai tukekuwa na shota kutusaidia.
The authorities say it will take months to rebuild the water system. They are also concerned that the lack of access to water will favour the spread of diseases like cholera.
That's all for this edition of Eye on Africa. Thanks for watching. More news coming up.
A Mediterranean melting pot, Corsica has long set itself apart from mainland France with a culture, language and identity all of its own. Join us for this special show where we meet the artists blending the island's heritage with a new vision of Corsican arts and culture.
Encore on France 24 and France24.com.